As you can see, the Kaiba is having some treats. I have to make this video quickly because I promised him that if I can do it fast enough, I would get it done before he eats this pile of treats. And that way he can go for an extra WALK this morning because he's determined that he wants extra ones each day when I get home from work. And while it's definitely taxing on me physically, I'm happy to have him go for the extra walks because he needs to lose a bit of weight still, and because it's nice to see him have some extra energy. When you're a daddy, you do what you need to do to make your babies happy. And speaking of making my babies happy, as I say, I gotta do this quick. So, since it's Tuesday, it is time for Dollar Trials of Destiny! I'm going to skip through most of my usual ramble. I got 4 packs. I'm going to crack the first one, and we're going to try and see what we can pull, and how quickly we can get through all the pulls, so that we can get the baby out for his special time. And then maybe I can get a little nap in before I have to make lunch. Here we go. Necrosquito, 3 and a black for a 0/0 flying. When this thing enters battlefield, put 2 oil counters on it. It gets +1/+1 for every oil counter on it. And whenever another artifact or creature you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, this gets an extra oil counter. So basically, it can get pretty big, but it's expensive to get into play, first off. Decent card, though, for sure. Natural End, 2 and a green, destroy target artifact or enchantment. You gain 3 life, instant speed. I'll put that up top, for sure. Seal of Doom, 2 and a black, sacrifice Seal of Doom, destroy target non-black creature, can't be regenerated. It's interesting as a threat on the board, and it doesn't cost anything to actually trigger its effect, so... You know what, actually, I will put that up top, what the heck. Angelic Wall, 1 and a white for a 0/4 defender flying. It's a wall, and that is perfect for the walls deck I want to build eventually, so you go right up there. Riot Gear, equipped creature gets +1/+2 for equip 2, and it costs 2 to put into play. That's a decent artifact. Not amazing, but decent. I'll put it there. Cracked Skull, 2 and a black, enchant creature. When this thing enters, look at the target player's hand. You may choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card, and when an enchanted creature is dealt damage, it gets destroyed. It is a pretty vicious enchantment. Connecting the Dots, 1 and a red. Whenever a creature you control attacks, exile the top card of your library face down. 1 and a red, discard your hand, sacrifice Connecting the Dots, put all cards exiled with this thing into their owner's hands. Interesting. Ooh, Spider-Man's back in here. I do have a response video coming for you guys eventually at some point this week if I get lucky. And it is going to have something to do with the Spider-Man stuff, so keep that in mind. I pulled Flash Thompson's Spider-Fan. Hey, Spidey Librarian, check this out. It is a 1 and a white for a 2/2 Flash. That makes sense. When it enters the battlefield, choose one, or both. Heckle, tap target creature. Hero Worship, untap target creature. Interesting. It is our first legendary of the day. Summerwald Vigilante. 1 red for a 1/1 when this thing enters... Or no, sorry, when it becomes blocked by a creature, it deals 1 damage to that creature. Interesting. Okay, so it's basically going to deal 2 damage whenever it attacks, assuming that it stays a 1/1. If it gets bigger, then it deals more damage, but... I'm going to put that mid, actually. What the heck. If it had Vigilance or something, that'd be cool, but... Mud Button Clanger. 1 red for a 1/1. Goblin Warrior, Kinship. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may look at the top card of your library. If it shares a creature type with this thing, you may reveal it. If you do, this thing gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Interesting. That is a May ability, right? Yeah, I like that. It'll go well in the Goblin deck. Emballed Brawler, 2 and a black for a 2/2. Amplify 1. As this creature comes into play, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each zombie card you reveal in your hand. Ooh, interesting. When this thing attacks or blocks, you lose 1 life for each +1/+1 counter on it, though. Eesh, that's dangerous to run. I'm going to put that mid. That seems very, very one-sided against me. 1 and a black. If it had trample, maybe, but ouch. Twin Bolt deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 target creatures and or players. Okay. Instant speed, I'll take it. Vashino Pyromancer, 1 and a red for a 2/1. When it enters battlefield, it deals 2 damage to target player or planeswalker. Forest, good land always to have extra forests. I need those because that's the color I seem to build the most. And Junkwinder, which is pretty good for sure. Expensive to put into play, but I'm not going to complain about that. 5 and 2 blue for 5/6 affinity for tokens, so it costs less for every token you control. And whenever a token enters the battlefield under your control, tap target non-land permanent opponent controls. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. This is fantastic for artifact decks and things like that. Fantastic pull for sure. Definitely a solid first pack. The only disappointing part maybe is actually I'm not really sure how much I like the flash card there. I mean, it's not bad. It's just it's not bad. I'm gonna leave it at it's not bad. All right, Canyon Minotaur, 3 in a red for 3/3 with just a bunch of flavor text. I'm not going to take the time to read that. I'm going to put it mid. We are in a hurry. Soltari Visionary. Sorry. 1 and 2 white for a 2/2. 93 to 98. We have our first old school card. And it has Shadow, and damn it, if it damages any player, destroy target enchantment that player controls. Cool. Old school card, we'll put it over here next to the legendary. See if we pull any more of those. Champion of the Flame, 1 in a red, 1/1, trample. When this thing gets +2/+2 for each aura and equipment attached to it. That's insane. I like that. Sibsig Icebreakers, 2 in a black for 2/3. When this thing enters the battlefield, each player discards a card. It's a zombie, so I'm going to put it at top just because of that. Volduran Duelist is going right to the bottom because we pulled it way too much, and I really just don't care for that card in the first place. Truffle Snout, 2 and a green for a 2/2. When this thing enters the battlefield, you either put a +1/+1 counter on it, or you gain 4 life. Either way, that's not bad. I'm going to put you mid, though. Omnispell Adept, 4 and a blue for a 3/4, and paid 2 and a blue tap. You may cast instant or sorcery speed from You may cast an instant or sorcery card from your hand without paying its mana cost. Oh shit, that's a top card. Somebody was asking me the other day if you pull anything worthwhile, and I mean, it depends on how you want to look at it. Like, I'm thinking we've pulled a bunch of stuff that's really worthwhile today so far, but I mean, is it worth cash value? Probably not a huge amount. That might be the most expensive, either that or the Junk Winder that we pulled earlier. One of those two might be the most expensive cards so far, I think. If I were to guess, and I'd probably be wrong. Attune with Ether. 1 green, search your library for a basic land, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle, get 2 energy. That's pretty decent. Definitely good for an energy deck. Not super good for anything that doesn't need energy, but you're still getting a land, so whatever. Apothecary Geist, right to the bottom. Garruk's Companion. I'm going to keep putting you mid for now, but eventually I'm going to start putting you bottom because of the 3/2. 1 and a white, exile target black or red permanent. Yeah, it's specific, but I like the specificity to a certain extent. Impossible Inferno, 4 and a red, deals 6 damage to target creature. If there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, exile the top card of your library and you can play it until the end of your next turn. Duress, decent artwork on the Duress. Survive the Night, 2 and a white, target creature gets +1/+0 and gains indestructible until end of turn. Investigate, that's pretty decent. And a Chrome Companion, which I'm going to put mid because he's decent, but he's not amazing. You do get life from him, and you do have a way to tap him without having to actually attack, which is decent, for sure. But he is a 2/1, so he's pretty easy to kill. Sip of Coke. How we doing, Kaiba? Aww. I promise, I'm going as fast as I can, honey. Hill Giant Hill Giant Herd Gorger. 4 and 2 green for a 7/6. When this thing enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. I'm going to put you mid. Phantom General. 2002. It looked like an old school card, but it's not. 3 and a white for a Spirit Soldier. Creature tokens you control get +1/+1. I mean, that's solid. I do play enough creature decks that it's worthwhile to play that. Okay, that one ended up upside down somehow. Quag Vampires. 1 black for a 1/1. Multi-kicker, 1 and a black. You can pay that any number of times as you want. Swamp Walk. This thing enters with +1/+1 counter on it for each time it was kicked. Solid. I like that, actually. Desecrated Earth, 4 and a black. Destroy target land, and its controller discards a card. I'm not really huge on land destruction, but that's pretty neat. So I'm going to definitely put it mid at least. Swamp? Actually, you know what? I'm going to put that top. Why not? It is a little expensive, but it is definitely a solid, like, 1/2 punch to an opponent. Giant's Amulet. 1 blue. Artifact equipment. This thing enters the battlefield. You may pay 3 and a blue. If you do, create a 4/4 blue giant wizard creature token, then attach this thing to it. The quick creature gets +0/+1 and has this creature has hexproof as long as it's untapped. Ooh, that's pretty good for my mono blue deck that I just built, actually, to be honest. Zathrid, I'm going to go with Gorgon. I could be wrong, but I'm going with Zathrid. 5 and a black, Death Touch, 3/6. 2 and a black, tap, put a petrification counter on target creature. It gains Defender and becomes a colorless artifact in addition to its other types. Its activated abilities can't be activated. Wow. That's vicious. I wish that was a legendary, but that is really cool. There's a legendary, but it's another Spider-Man one. Morbius, the Living Vampire, 2, a blue and a black. We pulled this recently as a 3/1 with Flying Vigilance lifelink, which is pretty solid, but the stats suck. I wish they were flipped. Pay blue and a black, exile this card from your graveyard, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. How did they all get... Oh my goodness, I did a bad job of flipping these. Leonin Vanguard, 1 white for a 1/1. It looks like an old school card, but no, it's 2018. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 3 or more creatures, this thing gets +1/+1 until the end of your turn, and you gain 1 life. That's pretty decent. That could go in my cat deck. Scatter the Seeds, 3 and 2 green. Convoke, so it could cost up to 3 less. Put 3 Sapperling creature tokens onto the battlefield. Nice. That's definitely going in my one deck too. Cleric of the Forward Order, 1 and a white for 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life for each creature you control. Name this. Well, that's only good in mono, in like modern or something. So nope, can't play that. Noble Vestige, 2 and a white for a 1/1, or sorry, a 1/2. Sorry, flying, tap, prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to target player this turn. That's decent. Plummet, classic, destroy target creature with flying, 1 and a green. Ooh, Dothy Horror Shadow. And it can't be blocked by white creatures. That one's solid. It is a 2/1, which is kind of annoying, but I mean, it's an old school card, and it has Shadow, so yeah. Vigilante Justice. 3 in the red. When a human enters the battlefield under your control, this thing deals 1 damage to any target. Ooh, I have a deck that I'm going to be building eventually that's going to be fun with that. Alright, last pack. I told you, Kaiba, we're going as fast as we can. I've actually kept this under 15 minutes so far, buddy. Not doing too bad today. Can get us out of this in less than 20 for sure. Unless this pack has some crazy long text. Strength of Arms, 1 white, instant, target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If you control an equipment, put a 1/1 white human soldier creature token onto the battlefield. That would go well with that enchantment I just showed you. Nice. Command the Storm. Actually, because it doesn't get indestructible, I'm going to put it there. Command the Storm, 4 and a red, deals 5 damage to target creature. Instant speed, but still, that's pretty expensive, so you're going mid. Shatter, 1 and a red, destroy target artifact. That is solid, you can go top. Fascination, X and 2 blue, choose 1. Each player draws X cards. Each player puts the top X cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Either way, that's sadistic. I like it. Mountain. Fanatic of the Harrowing, 3 and a black. When this thing enters, each player discards a card. If you discard a card this way, you get to draw a card, though. That's okay. Farsight Ritual, 2 and 2 blue, bargain, so you can sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or a token as you cast it. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. If the spell is bargained, you get to look at the top 8 instead. Put 2 of them into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Decent. Spectacular Tactics, Spider-Man card. 1 in a white, choose 1, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control against hexproof. Decent. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. Yeah, okay. You can go top. That's useful in many decks. Live Fast, 2 in a black, you draw 2 cards, you lose 2 life, you get 2 energy. Geistfield Scarecrow, 4 for a 4/4. Creature spells you cast cost 1 more to cast. I don't understand why I want that. You go bottom. Grixis Battle Mage, 2 and a black for 2/2. Pay blue, tap, draw a card, then discard a card. Pay red, tap, target creature can't block this turn. Interesting. I like you. Mist Intruder, Devoid, Flying, Ingest, and 1/2 for 1 and a blue. Okay. The Ingest thing is always kind of weird to me. When it deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles the top card of his or her library, and it just gets exiled. You don't get to do anything with it. I'm not super fond of that. I'd rather be able to at least play it, but it's a cool card nonetheless. Aspect of Gorgon. 2 and a black enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+3 and has Death Touch. Nice. Always happy to see stuff that gives me Death Touch. Avicen's Collar. 1 for a equipment. Equipped creature gives +1/+0 and Vigilance. Okay. When a equipped creature dies, if it was a human, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Equip 2. Interesting. I like that. And finally, Vectus Silencers. 2 and a blue. For a 1/2 with 2 and a black, this thing gets Death Touch until end of turn. It is an artifact creature, and it's a human rogue. That's a lot of interesting type synergy with different, a variety of different decks that I have. But, yeah. Alright. Well, I mean, we definitely had some good stuff today. I'm not going to say we didn't. I think the best card, if you were to twist my arm, I kind of like this Gorgon. I really kind of like this Gorgon. The Crag Vampires is pretty good too. And then, of course, we definitely had that Omnispell Adept. I think the Omnispell Adept actually is probably the one that I'm going to have to put to the front. Because that's just insane what its ability is by comparison. But I mean, I would say these top 4, if they're not worth money, they're definitely worth something to every player. Like, I can't see how people would not want to use some of these. So, yeah. Anyways, as I said, I wanted to keep this short and sweet because I promised somebody that I would take him out when I was done this one video. I just wanted to get it in before we went out in case Buddy Perry comes back, but I'm pretty sure we might be okay for the day. If we are, I'm going to also film new set versus old set when we get back. Anyways, much love to you all from Kaiba over here, giving me the look, and myself to you all. Take care. Have a great Tuesday. Bye.